something you never witnessed until now. SunWun. I done heard it all, stop talking to me. Never was I scared of they ghost stories. I was in the hood drinking warm 40s, smoking old weed out of broke Phillies. Summertime chilly down in North Philly. Nigga got shot walking out his building. On the way to school picking up his children. On his birthday, right around Christmas. Damn, I see the big picture. Damn, through my new lenses. Fendi put him out for like $850. The chain on my neck look like an ice sculpture. Your girl looking at me trying to take a portrait. Your man on my dick asking where I bought it. We all know nigga can't afford it. King talk, nigga, run the jewels up. 12 bricks in the suitcase. 40 bands in the shoebox. 4 girls in the back room. They just trying to see who come first. Trunk full of drugs. That's what you want, right? Money in the bag. That's what you want, right? Girls going by. That's what you want, right? That's what you want, right? That's what you want, that's what you want. Hit the booth, killer might run the jewels up. I'm still drinking marijuana stinking. Back in the city, this time to Ben Franklin. Damn, wrong Ezek, now it's Ty Coney. A-Day news, shoot another movie. Cinematic shit, keep the camera rolling. 97,000 for the wardrobe. The lawn out front is a car show. New kitchen on the first and second floor. Skylight for when your bitch wanna see the stars. I know, niggas ain't fucking with me. I know, niggas don't fuck with me. You know, I gotta keep the thing with me. They know, I'm still with whatever, nigga. 12 bricks in the suitcase. 40 bands in the shoebox. 4 girls in the back room. They just tryna see who come first. Trunk full of drugs. Money in the bag. Girls going by. 12 bricks in the suitcase. 40 bands in the shoebox. 4 girls in the back room. They just tryna see who come first. Trunk full of drugs. Money in the bag. That's what you want, right? Girls going by. That's what you want, right? That's what you want, right? That's what you want, that's what you want, right? I'm in the room with the smoke, unforgettable quotes, miraculous dope stuck in the speakers, let's go to a place they don't go, I only know cause I go, in fact I built a house there and made them shovel my snow, we so icy in July, get your skellies and coats, take your time little bro, you don't smoke what we smoke, superpowers got me thinking I can pick up a boat, and the water's so wavy we be doing the most, I'm a king when I talk, jewelry in my thoughts, put my voice into computers, let it blend with the bass, sipping on some new liquor while we smoking the safe. I'm with cool in the Benz, we trying to make new friends. I'm talking about girlfriends, who got more girlfriends than just tonight? Baby girl, you'll be my girlfriend. Yo, I won't tell if you don't, I know she probably will. And now her girlfriends want me and they all on my heels.
Cold in July, either you going to jail or you gonna die. It gets cold in July, either you on the boat or you gon' fly. Hey yo, love gon' trump the hate every time. The pain gon' suffocate you if you cry. We was in December making moves for July. SunWun said snow and it fell out the sky. I swear I never lied, probably only to my wife. And that came with a psych. Motorcycle jacket, that came with a bike. Thumb up on the gram, that came with a like. I came with a dike, left with 3 bitches like I'm trafficking at night. Like I'm King Jaffe Joffer and I'm African at night. I'm telling you they envy when they ask about my life. So I don't talk about it, I just tell them I'm alright. Better than some, worse than other niggas like. The Timbs got jealous of the Benz. The nigga in the wheelchair got jealous of the Timbs. And the nigga that's dead was jealous of his friends. It's cold in July, I can't wait till the winter. It's cold in July, I can't wait till the winter. Cause it gets cold in July, either you going to jail or you gonna die. It gets cold in July, either you on the boat or you gonna fly. It gets cold in July, so look at me, I'm Rodeo on Ocean Drive. It gets cold in July.
And my new whip on my new shit. Nah. can't take me off this wave, man. Tell they bitch, get them boards out.
I felt the weather change swiftly. Cold breeze through my dickies on the 4th of December. In position, I remember I ain't used to have to do that shit. Now I'm smoking on an eighth of some marvelous pet. Street nigga turned mogul, I'm in charge of the strip. New edition, Maserati in the trunk is a stiff. Just a reminder, SunWun don't play that shit. Take a whiff, I'm just showing you strength without the bench. In the trap, I'm just showing you work without the wrench. He got O's of the dower for the low, I'm not convinced. Niggas say they be back, but we ain't seen a nigga since. Yeah, he probably had a wire trying to get the king pinch. In the dirt with the wolves while you scared on the fence. Throwing sticks at a nigga like his gun don't work. He got guns, we got guns. Nigga, who gon' shoot first? Little nigga reach for mine and he gon' get this work. Watching time stand still for a dead man walking. Trying to make a deal with Poppy, only Spanish what he talking. It's all good, I seen the first season of Narcos. Meet our man with a De Niro, boy, I story in Conando. Keep my money straight and you know we won't have no problems. Get me sitting on bank like I just hit the lotto. Mama Votto tell me the time of a legend. Still I walk with different weapons for protection. From thirsty motherfuckers with a death wish.
Till my last breath, until that second past death, I'ma ride.
Say less,
I'ma get high.
pass that.
Counting money till my thumbs numb.
Crack, stash that.
Nigga front on SunWun, bong bong.
That's that.
Give me bread or give me lead, make it shower.
Let it shower.
I'm in the bed thinking hard off the dower.
Off the dower.
Tony told us that the world was ours.
That is ours.
Fuck college, star power off street knowledge.
It's that shit that I like to push. Man, it's just a little sour mixed with a little kush. Now the chain's so big, had to take a second look. Yo, we kings in here. What the fuck they thought? Now I park where I want, back out where I want. And everything's peace till they acting dumb. Watch the size of the piece when I pop the trunk. King talk with the K, better hit the flow. On the corner with the killers trying to give them the truth. Show them more than the drama when we hit the booth. We get dollars talking shit to get loose. On the record, come and check it, it ain't just for the check. I drink THC mixed with the Manischewitz. Taking dabs of the wax, about to hit the upper strap. You smoking Reggie's popping 602. So pathetic, see my block on the record, any question you'll regret it. See my semi-automatic, get to jumping in the action. I love to see how they reacting when that banger get to snapping. It's okay, I'm reloaded, peep the V12 motor. Got me bending round corners, Patron and marijuana, South Philly up to Tacoma. On the top, it's so lonely, where my homies, where my niggas, where my brothers, where my sisters. Get my people in the picture, see me get it on the business. They can't figure how we did it.
Till my last breath, until that second past death, I'ma ride.
Say less,
I'ma get high.
pass that.
Counting money till my thumbs numb.
Crack, stash that.
Nigga front on SunWun, bong bong.
That's that.
Give me bread or give me lead, make it shower.
Let it shower.
I'm in the bed thinking hard off the dower.
Off the dower.
Tony told us that the world was ours.
That is ours.
Fuck college, star power off street knowledge.
Talk. Stepping out the telly, Q queen walking with me. Headed to the city, all my jewelry is pretty. Sunlight shining off the E-Class emblem. Remember the days when it was all so simple. God, he was alive, we used to race in the rental. Right around the time of jiggers, ain't no nigga. Still shed a tear, cause I love my nigga. Overseas in the farm, that's American me. I let my hair grow out, I got sick of the fade. Still 7 days a week, we putting on to get paid. Pencil pocket, guess jeans in the hood was the wave. Club fever or the tunnel, 2 for 5 weed bundles. Wall Street A+, where we all used to hustle. Parking lot got hot, 4 ounces in the duffel, had the Mustang coupe. Baby blue with the white roof, and I kept a chrome 25 inside my boot. Made a nigga walk funny, either rumble or shoot. My connect was Jamaican nigga fresh off the boot, and his English kinda shaky, so I'm listening close. And even then we used to argue about who really to go. Fast forward in the future, everything is computers, and I still shoot a nigga if he wanna act stupid. King talk, and I'm still with the dumb shit. I'm still something you never witnessed until everything's watered down. Who you call for the classic? It's kinda hard now, everything's plastic. Where the love, where the pain, where the bars at? Where the heart, where the heat, where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the heart, where the heat, where the soul at? Things went down, we go for the classic. It's kinda hard now, everything's plastic. Where the love, where the pain, where the bars at? Where the heart, where the heat, where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the soul at? Where the heart, where the heat, where the soul at?
Once again, what's this? The third one? Don't even matter. Yo, we live and direct. It's your main man, Rod D Supreme, a.k.a. SunWun. And we back with the Diamond and Steel podcast. How y'all feeling out there? You dig? We're here with my legal counsel, my main man, Mr. Guy Lang's in the building. What's up, G?
Peace. Not legal counsel. I'm your I'll be your advisor.
My legal advisor,
like that,
my legal
right? I can give you legal information, not advice, though.
Hey, man.
And I got you on all of that. All the information
Listen,
you need.
Listen. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, see it.
Facts. I ain't gonna see you trip and fall, bro. I got you.
That's what's up. That's why you here.
Right.
That's why you here. That's
you,
why we
you
here.
and, you and everybody else.
Facts. That's why we here. You dig?
Yes,
First and foremost, I wasn't gonna do it. I promise you, I wasn't. But I got to because it meant too much to me. You know what I'm saying? He meant too much to me, and what he did, and his legacy, and how he inspired me on some things, a lot of things, really. You know what I'm saying? I want to give a rest in peace, a rest in power to Papa Wu. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going, because we try not to date the episodes. We try not to date what we doing. You know what I mean? But I got to give a big shout out to Pop and what he meant to me. You know what I mean? That was my guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of people knew him from the Wu-Tang records. You know what I mean? A lot of people knew he did the intro on a lot of Raekwon records. He did the intro on the Wu-Tang Forever album. You know, Pop was just a staple in not just the world of that whole Wu-Tang Clan thing, but is in the nation of guys of Earth. That was Freedom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was his name. You know what I mean? So I definitely got to take a moment to speak about that, because a lot of people don't take that step forward when it comes to putting our people on. You know what I mean? A lot of people are hesitant. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are fearful of what it takes to enlighten those around us. And he wasn't a person who was scared to do that. You know what I mean? He was a person who was a poster child for this nation. You know, he was one of the vanguards for holding down what we trying to hold down here. So it was only right that I pay the ultimate respect to Pop, because, you know what I mean, he did a lot for us as a nation, as a people, as original people. He did a lot for us, you know. I remember we brought Pop down here to Philly, and we had him actually across the street. I had the building across the street from where we are right now, and that's when we had the studio in there, and we brought Papa Wu down. And, you know, he did the intro for me for one of the records we did on the King Talk project. And, you know, he came through, your man showed a lot of love, man. It was a dope situation, man. We partied all night that night over in the studio, man. So that's one of the memories I got of Pop. And Pop showing us love, coming through all the time. And he was always building. He was always talking. He was always building. Anything was coming out of his mouth, it was some kind of jewel. It was mathematics that he was giving to us. You know what I'm saying? Every time. So I gotta pay my respects to Pop, man. That's real. It ain't got nothing to do with rap. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with hip hop at the end of the day. It got everything to do with love for our people. You know what I mean? It got everything to do with respect. It got everything to do with somebody not being soft when it come time to speak up. Because he was definitely one of those people. He was far from soft. You dig what I'm saying? Far from that. Like, you seen glimpses of it from the videos. You know, he was one of the people who checked Action Bronson about that whole Ghostface situation.
Right.
You know, understand what I'm saying? He was always, like I said, one of the vanguards for this culture. And a lot of people get it confused, thinking it's some New York shit or thinking it's some Wu-Tang shit, or thinking that it's something that's not as great as the culture that it is. You know what I mean? A lot of people get it confused with, like I said, with rap, and it's so much bigger than rap. You know what I mean? The connection that we had with Papa Wu was way bigger than rap. It had everything to do with the culture. It had everything to do with the nation of gods and earths. It had everything to do with being supreme. Right. Everybody know I preach that every day, being supreme. You know what I mean? So, you know, we're going to give a shout out and a quick moment of silence for my man Papa Wu, man.
Here's to you.
You know what I mean? Cheers to Pop. We'll pass me one of them Coronas, man. I'm going to bust one of them shits open for Pop. You know what I'm saying? I remember we was busting these joints down when he was down here and shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was right on point when we grabbed these joints. I got it, G. Good looking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's love, man. Definitely represent, man, with that, man.
Papa
Cheers,
Wu.
man. Papa Wu all the time with the Wu-Tang Clan, man. We Dominant Steel podcast is definitely showing love. Me being Rod-D Supreme, man, I got to show love, that being my brother. You know what I mean? That news caught me off guard when I hit that. The guy, Divine Universal, had hit me. He was like, yo, you heard about Pop? And I'm like, what you talking about? And then it started flooding my timeline. You dig what I'm saying? So, rest in peace to Pop, man. It was love, kid.
Rest in peace.
Speaking about Pop, he was one of the, Papa Wu was one of the spokesmen when it came to unity of our people. He was one of the spokesmen who came when it came to really studying where we came from. You know what I mean? He was that. And that's one of the things I saw. He was in the series doing what he do in the Wu-Tang series. Pardon me. You seen the I don't know if you watched it. You get a chance to check it out? The Wu-Tang series when they're talking about the history of Wu-Tang Clan. The joint that was on Hulu. You didn't get a chance to check it out. It's cool. Yeah. But within that, they had Papa Wu in the joint, and he was in the park building with the gods. You know what I mean? That's what he do. That's what he did. And it was about understanding, mainly, first and foremost, because we as black people have always been deeply embedded in religion. Always. We've always, like, that's been our thing. Like, Jesus Christ was something that was passed on to us through slavery. You know what I mean? We've always been attached to religion. And there were a group of people who spoke against that. And not in a negative light necessarily, trying to downplay nobody or trying to talk negative towards anybody. What's up, big guy? You know what I mean? It was all about the upliftment of us as people. And Pop was one of the vanguards for that. Papa Wu was one of the people who really spoke loudly and proudly about the greatness of us as original people. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about religion, when you talk about the origins of religion, you understand that it separates the people. Anyone with a blind man can see that. A blind man can see that there's a big separation amongst the people when dealing with religion. And because of that separation, I've always viewed that as a means to research, a reason to research, because who's to say who's right? You know, and I know we all think about it. Some of us think about it for a moment, don't even care no more. Some of us really do the research. You know what I mean? It's the real ones who really do the research. And the beauty of today's society and the beauty of things like Google is you can do the research.
It's all at your fingertips.
It's all at your fingertips.
Everybody got a phone to keep
everybody got one of these joints in their hands. It's all at your fingertips. Right. So understanding that, it's up to you at that point to take advantage of the tools that we have when it comes to understanding who we are. If you even care enough. A lot of us don't care. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of us don't even care, son.
Or it's not. I don't know if it's that they don't. A lot of us don't care. It might be that. It might be that. I'm sure that's part of it. But also part of it is the doctrination. So when you indoctrinate it into something like a religion, when you challenge it, you challenge the folks who indoctrinated you, right? So in society, in our society, most times it's your parents, your grandparents, their parents, and that's who indoctrinates you into whatever religion. And not only just that, it's your demographics, where you from, what religion is prevalent in that geographical area, because that's going to be the religion that most people practice, right? So I think that's where it comes in as far as whether we care enough not to research, or whether it's that we care enough and we've been indoctrinated and we don't choose to challenge that authority figure that indoctrinated us.
Right. And like you said, usually that authority figure is a parent.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these are things that, and we've touched this topic, you know, we've danced around it a little bit on each and every show. However, one of the ideas that we spoke about was the fact that it was something that was instilled when we were babies, when we were so young.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was something that was instilled in us at a time where we were very vulnerable and impressionable by people who we love near and dearly, our parents.
Right.
So therefore, a lot of ideas became a part of us in our growth and development as humans, if you will, in this world. It became literally a part of us. Like that smell when you walk into your grandparents' house, and that feeling that you get when you walked into your people's crib after being gone for a while. All that stuff is stuff that's a part of you. The whole atmosphere, the whole environment, or the whole idea of just family is, religion is woven into the social fabric of that. You know what I mean? So therefore, when you begin to research these things and you begin to see that the origin of these religions are not as accurate as we perceive them to be, then you start to question family values. And you start to question the origins of where your peoples get the shit from. And to even pass it on to me, and you start to question things that a lot of people may not want to question because it's questioning their whole livelihood. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people they became indoctrinated through their friends and people around them. And they don't want to disappoint these people because they got such a great love for them. So therefore, they'll turn a blind eye or a deaf ear on the truth.
But also the fact that, like you said, it's habits, it's norms, cultural norms. Like we drinking these Coronas out of these bottles, right?
Right.
When you were born, you were drinking out of a bottle, unless you was on a nipple. You know what I'm saying? And who's going to challenge that and say, well, why are we not drinking out of bowls instead of drinking out of a bottle? So I don't know if it's necessarily that folks don't want to challenge it, but they don't necessarily see the need to challenge it. It's something that they believe is a foundation in their life that maybe supported them for a long time or got them to a certain point, or however you want to play it. But what I'm saying is it's something that it was more than just developed. It was indoctrinated. It's something like we walk upright. If you were born and you were taught, no, you got to crawl on your knees for the rest of your life, and you did that, you never questioned it because that's what everybody was doing. And you know, that goes part and parcel with the fact that we roam around like some folks roam around like sheeps. We do what society tells us to do. Right. What's normal in society? What's a cultural norm? What is a thing that, you know, is acceptable in our society? And what's acceptable in our society ain't always right. A lot of times it ain't right. And we see what falls, you know, what side of history some shit falls on. And, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily know where religion is going to fall sometime down the line.
Right. Religion's power is based off of the unknown. No one alive today, no one can tell you what happens after you die. So religion banked on that. They use that as a tool to fuel their progression. They use that as a tool to spread their word. They use that as a tool to implant fear in the people to somewhat force them into dealing with said religion. Which is why it maintains its power the way that it does, because of the fear of the unknown. And when there's a fear of the unknown, people just fall in line sometimes because they don't know. They feel as though, because so many people deal with it at such a on such a large scale, that it has to be right. You dig what I'm saying? And when you're dealing with that, it's like a myth is something that's widely believed, but it's not true. That's the definition of a myth. And if you're dealing with something that's unknown, is it not possible that it's a myth? Because you can't prove its validity. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
You know what I mean? So therefore, be based off of that, and based off of the fact that this is something that you're basing your whole life on. Do you want to base your whole life on a myth? Of course not. So therefore, that's why it's important that we do the research to ensure, even if it's just to ensure that what we're dealing with is not a myth. And that's why we research. That's the importance of the research. You know what I'm saying?
I think with religion, though, whenever you come up against what you may believe to be a myth, you're gonna come across a word, and that word is a small word, 4-letter word, and it's what a lot of religions use, not to I guess reinforce the religion, and that's faith, right? So
It's a 5-letter word.
you right. I'm wrong.
I'm with you.
I can go to law school for 10 years and I still wouldn't know how to spell, but it's cool. But yeah, I get you, right? So it's a 5-letter word. It's called faith. And a lot of people, you know what I mean, they rock out with faith.
Right. Well, faith, if you understand the definition of what faith is, faith and belief are pretty much synonymous.
Right.
And belief is dealing with the uncertain truth is the definition for belief. And when you're dealing with that uncertain truth, that uncertainty again falls on the unknown that we're speaking about. You know what I mean? That uncertainty again falls on to the not knowing aspect that keeps us in the dark, but yet we claim we're searching for the light. There's no way you could search for the light without objective research. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to objectively, unbiasedly research. You know what I mean? No feelings attached, because a lot of people, their feelings are attached to these ideas. A lot of people, feelings are attached to these said ways of life to the point where they don't even want to hear anything that appears to challenge it even a little bit. And I don't think that's fair to yourself. I don't think that's fair to your children to force on something that you didn't even yourself do the research to. You only did it because everybody around you was doing it. Or you only did it because it was something that was passed on to you. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
in a lot of households, it's a requirement of your existence in that household.
Absolutely. You deal with this, so you got to roll out.
Exactly. Right.
So that is another factor that makes it like, whoa.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That makes it like, whoa. Like,
It
hold
is.
on. If I stop doing this, I may not have anywhere to live.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother element that'll prevent somebody from researching outside of the box that their family structure is used to, or researching out of the box that their community is used to. Because a lot of times it's a community thing as well. It's everybody that's around us is dealing with that. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? So it makes it even more difficult at that point as well. But at what point do we say the truth is the truth, regardless of who want to bear witness to it or not?
Well, we say that every day. We live our truth.
Absolutely.
We walk in our truth. Our truth is what it is. And that's not something that can be negotiated. It's not something that can be challenged. Your truth is your truth.
Absolutely. And it's never based off feelings.
It can't be.
Ever. It can't be.
No.
You know what I mean? And there is no your truth, my truth. There's only the truth.
Yeah, there's only one truth. You walk in that joint, it's yours. You own it.
You understand what I'm saying? There's only one truth. That's it.
Right.
Like, fire is not just hot to me and cool to you.
Right.
There's one truth that fire is hot to everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? That same truth, those are those absolute facts. The things that across the board universally is consistent across the board amongst everybody. You know what I mean? And that's what we focus on. That's where the outline is for what we're trying to do. Trying to get everybody in tune with one universal accord. And it sounds crazy. It sounds difficult. However, it's the only way. You understand what I'm saying? It's the only way. Other than that, what you complaining for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Other than that, if you're not trying to change that, what's the point in even talking about anything if you ain't really trying to move and shake shit up? Because if you ain't shaking it up, then it's gonna stay the way it is and continue to get worse.
Right.
You gotta reverse the polarity. You gotta go against the grain. You got to. And at the end of the day, a lot of the things that's pushed on us, straight up and down, is some bullshit.
Well, every society, every successful society challenges it challenges authority, challenges beliefs, and that's just strictly for progress. That's just to make progress in society, just to move society forward. You have to challenge those beliefs. You got to challenge those customs. You got to challenge authority. if you don't, we would still be, you know what I mean, maybe knocking chicks over the head with bats and dragging them off, you know what I mean, to the cave or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Until somebody said, you know, we got to challenge that. That's not the way to do it. We got to do it a little bit different. And then you come to a different angle, and that angle might be courtship or however you may play it. You know what I'm saying? So to challenge religion, theologists challenge religion. You know what I mean? That's how they gain their wisdom and their insight. You know what I mean? Theologians, or, you know, those folks who religious scholars, they challenge religion in order to, you know, just bring number one, to support their position, because I believe most believe that whatever you present them with, they're going to have an ability and information to refute your challenge, right?
Right, that's a fact. That's definitely a fact. And if you don't dispute it, then you're a puppet, if you ask me. You know what I mean? If you don't challenge the foundation of any and everything you're dealing with, not just religion, mainly religion, because it holds such a large,
it controls the masses.
It has such a strong hold on the masses. That should be the number one thing that you challenging, and it should be understood why, not viewed as blasphemy. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Pardon me. It should be understood why I want to know what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not viewed as, oh, you the devil, or not viewed as you trying to take something down or any of that. Nah, I'm trying to build this up.
Well, true religious scholars will accept your challenge and attempt to convert you, and believe they'll have enough information to convert you to whatever religion it is that they practice.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and non-religious folks, they do the same. They'll not necessarily challenge you to not believe, but they'll challenge your belief.
Right. You're right. Absolutely. And that's why I used to think it was a thin line between belief and facts, but it's a very thick line. You know what I'm saying? It's not a thin line at all. People make the line thin because they confuse belief with facts. However, at the end of the day, they're two totally different things. We're gonna get more into that a little bit when we come back on the other side of this record. Right now, we're gonna play a record, man. Burn some time, let y'all enjoy some shit real quick. Hey, Toot, man, let that 88 joint run. And that's how we gonna do
it. Peace, gang. How you doing?
Out in the park, now it's $1 billion business, it's not my fault. You can tell by the way I dress and how I walk, the way I drip, the beat drop, and how I talk. Too much sauce, you couldn't cut Tough Crew off, cause it was so damn rough like the Tough Crew song. Had the Reebok classes with the gumshoes, dog. All the fun we had and all the ones we lost. You got the moves, the shakes, the poppers in the lockers, the DJs, the soccer MCs, and the boppers, the breakers. A million man march couldn't save us. The energy created around them two turntables. I'm hot 9-7, rhyme ready when I speak. Hip hop and R&B, 7 days a week.
You know what?
Since the sandbox, I was Anthrax. I was Beat Street with a train at. I was Lido, wearing them Lees though. Alpinas, cheap yayo. Drinking 40s, pulling out bankrolls. I remember grandma stepping on my Legos. I remember broke backing up my Play-Doh. JBM was the ATM of the way though. A brick in the Winnebago. Pancakes and syrups, they ain't let go their ego. Or let go their ego. Ain't couldn't beat Mike Tyson on Nintendo.
Black leather jacket, shell tops in my Kango. Gold rope chains when I'm posing for the
Blockaware exclusive. Run that shit back. Blockaware exclusive. Run that shit back.
Out in the park, now it's $1 billion business, it's not my fault. You can tell by the way I dress and how I walk, the way I drip, the beat drop, and how I talk. Too much sauce, you couldn't cut Tough Crew off. Cause it was so damn rough like the Tough Crew song. Had the Reebok classes with the gumshoes, dog. All the fun we had and all the ones we lost. You got the movers, the shakers, the poppers, and the lockers. The DJs, the sock, the MCs, and the boppers. The breakers, a million man march couldn't save us. The energy created around them two turntables. I'm hot 9-7 rhyme ready when I speak. Hip hop and R&B, 7 days a week.
You know what?
Since the sandbox, I was Anthrax. I was Beach Street with a train at. I was Lido, wearing them Lees though. Alpinas, cheap yeah yo. Drinking 40s, pulling out bank rolls. I remember grandma stepping on my Legos. I remember broke bagging up my Play-Doh. JBM was the ATM of the way though. A brick in the Winnebago. Pancakes and syrups, they ain't let go their ego. Or let go their ego. Ain't couldn't beat Mike Tyson on Nintendo.
Leather jacket, shell tops in my Kango. Gold rope chains when I'm posing for the Polaroid. Backspins with that cardboard or linoleum. Krylon paint, sign my name on the stadium. Cyphers in the park, South Street as a dog. Beatboxing on the corner till the police came. We would battle anybody so they know our name. Beat Street, Wild Style, and my #1 J's. Technique 1200, got the speaker box pumping. Ain't nothing but the brand new funk that we be smoking. New stage, new city, new hundreds, new 50s. More women backstage trying to show me they hold up.
How she fly with Medusa on my tee. Look like I'm from Dubai, but I'm from NP. If you wanna see me live, check my tour day sheet. When they throw on flip side, that crowd scream, yeah, free. Yeah, while I be in Cockney, shopping in the mall like I ain't bored from the property. Rhyme properly, burn a beat like some calories. Used to count my pellies from the blue inside the gallery. Used to pull my scully down low and flow melodically. Boogie down production is nothing but my philosophy. 93 back of the trolley, spitting, finishing with fatalities. Ring, 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 ring.
We back live on the Diamond and Steel podcast, right? I got you, son. Peace, you know what I mean? We back live and direct.
Peace.
Yo, so I wanna ask a question to you, G Money. That's what I call it. You know what I mean?
Talk to me.
If somebody was to ask you, what's 1 + 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing your response would be 2, not I believe it's 2, not I think it's 2. I'm guessing your answer will be 2. Am I correct in saying that?
No.
I'm not?
Mm-mm.
So what would your answer be if I asked you was 1 + 1?
It depends.
And what would that depend on?
It would depend on what's your one and what's the other one. Where these ones coming from?
In pure, simple mathematics, in pure addition, if you educating your child on simple addition, and the question was 1 + 1?
I would, if it was my child and I'm raising my kid and I'm trying to teach him math, it's likely that the answer would be 1.
No, 1 + 1.
The answer would likely be 2. But if I'm talking to somebody, my contemporary, my equal, I would say it depends.
You would say it depends.
And the reason I would say it depends, and let me tell you why, because it's kind of coming off like it's a trick answer, right? When it's really not.
It's not.
In the practice of what I do every day, just about every answer that I'm going to give to anybody is, it depends.
Okay. And why is that, though, when there are certain answers that are just straight up and down?
In the practice of law and in the way you think, right? Law. When you learn in law in law school, it teaches you something different. It teaches you to think different. And when you think different, it's always going to be more than one answer, right? That's why the law is the law. And the law says, this is the rule, right? So suppose you got this rule, which is mathematics, right? That's the rule. And then you got these facts. The facts of the rule is what's 1 + 1, or what in fact is 1. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to apply that rule to those facts. So any question you ask me is going to be, it depends, because it's going to depend on how I apply those facts, because it's always going to be an argument and it's always going to be a counter argument. And because you're going to have both, it's always going to be, it depends. I'll give you the most likely answer, right? If you ask me what 1 and 1 is, I'm going to tell you most likely is 2, right? But it could depend on something. But I know the rule you're referring to, and I know the facts that you're referring to, and based on that rule and those facts, the answer is 2. Boom.
Right. And I was just trying to grasp the idea of it ever not being 2. In what situation will 1 + 1 not be 2? Is what I was trying to grasp. You understand what I'm saying?
What if it was 1 plus a negative 1? Negative
But I
1
didn't
is
say
still
negative
1.
1.
It's still a 1 though.
It's a negative 1 though. It's more to it. You know what I mean? Like in order for you to even recognize it as being a negative 1, you have to make the statement of negative 1.
You're right.
You understand what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm saying. It would depend, because did you necessarily clarify that? You said it was 1 + 1. But I get what you're saying. I see where you're going. I'm not trying to challenge that.
Yeah, I did clarify it. I said it was 1 + 1. I didn't say it was negative 1 + 1. You added that.
Right. I
You
did.
understand what I'm saying? That was something you added. The question was simple and plain. It was 1 + 1.
Right. You're
Simple.
Right. So applying that fact, what's 1 + 1, to the rule, which is mathematics, 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. The answer is 2.
Right. But you're not going to say I believe it's 2. Is the point I'm making.
No.
That was the whole point.
I know that's 2. I know
that's 2. We've universally
that's 2.
agreed that that's 2.
Right.
And the point I'm making is there's a difference between believing and knowing. Mm-hmm. You could believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I could believe that once the show's over, I'm going to have wings sprout out my back and I'm going to fly back to the lab versus driving back. Right. I could believe whatever I want to believe. Whether it's actual fact or not, whether it's truth, is where we test who's who at. Mm-hmm. That's where we find out and separate the ponies from the racehorses.
Right.
When you're dealing with actual facts. And when it comes to religion, a lot of it is based in belief. What I believe. Which is, I mean, all right, I get it. However, if we're going, why is it that in every aspect of life, every single aspect of life, all of them, we deal with logic, pure logic, except for when it comes to the idea and the concept of God. That's when all logic goes out the window, all of it. And it's, oh, you got to believe, or it works in he works in mysterious ways, or just a gang of shit that doesn't line up with life and the way we live life. Even a minister, or imam, a preacher, whoever, when they go, for example, when they go to purchase a car, right? When they go to purchase a vehicle at a car dealer, right? They don't take their bread, they hard-earned bread, mind you, or stolen, depending on who you are. I don't know, but that's besides the point.
Right.
They don't take their money to the car dealer and say, I like the way that joint look right there. Give me that joint here. Take all my money, however much it costs. You take all that and give me that car right there. Without checking the mileage, without checking how many owners it may have had if it's not a brand new car, without popping the hood to check out the engine to see if it's any oil leaks. They doing the knowledge to the vehicle. Mm-hmm. They not just giving the money to the car dealer and say, give me the car, God got me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I pray every day, so I'm good. I know I'm straight.
Right.
They don't do that.
No.
So logic is being applied. They want to make sure they're not making a bad decision. Mm-hmm. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
To the best of their knowledge, to the best of their understanding. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So why is that not applied when it's coming to the research of this? You know what I mean? Why is that same thinking, why is that same mentality not applied when it comes to everything in life? Why is it thrown out the window for that? You know what I mean? There's rules and regulations amongst all these religions that say if you don't do this, you're gonna go to hell. Period. Mm-hmm. And people do it anyway. You dig what I'm saying? People do that shit anyway.
Right.
There's rules and regulations that set up like, nah, you ain't supposed to steal. And niggas, if it's a camera right there, a nigga ain't gonna steal. Mm-hmm. He not, because the camera watching.
Right.
But my question is, why doesn't that same mentality apply when you're dealing with religion? God's always watching, right?
Well, I think part of the reason is because, all right, we all know we all right. I think, therefore I am, right? So we all know we exist. So we know we exist, and we know that somehow we were created. And because we don't know how we were created, we can attribute that to God. You understand? So now you got religions all focused on a God, and you got people that prescribe to the notion of God because there's no other reasonable answer to them as to why they exist.
I'm gonna give you my concept on it, how I draw it up. You can tell me I'm crazy or you whatever. I'm gonna tell you how I see it, right? All right. To first even grasp the idea or the concept of what I'm talking about, you got to understand one or two things. One, the mind and the brain, two totally different things. That's the first jewel right there. The mind and the brain is two totally different things. Your brain is an organ, no different than your heart or your lungs. You know what I mean? It's no different. It's an organ. Your skin even. Your skin is an organ. A lot of people don't understand that idea. Your skin is your largest organ. People don't even view it like that, though, but you got to understand anatomy. You understand what I'm saying? Right. However, the point I'm making is your brain is something totally different than the mind. The mind is something that connects us all. The mind is that universal attachment that we all have. There's only one mind, right? With many different brains attached to it. Feel me? Now, boom. How many times you been at this crib or at the spot, right? And you thinking of a song in your head or some shit, and somebody come out the blue singing the same song that you was thinking. And you like, what the fuck? Like, I was just thinking that. You understand what I'm saying? Or here's another one. How many times you been thinking about somebody, or with a peer of yours, a close associate, or you're talking about a familiar or mutual friend that y'all have, and boom, that person calls you.
Right.
How many times that shit happened?
It happened enough where
you like, wait a minute, enough where you can identify with it. You dig what I'm saying? You can definitely identify with the shit. And what I'm saying is that's a reflection of we're all connected to the same mind. You know what I mean? We don't resonate with that because that's not something that's taught. You got to understand that concept. You got to study life. You can't you got to understand life and how life works to really understand that concept. And that one mind is the God that everybody is looking for.
The one mind.
That one mind. I'm gonna let that one sink in for a quick second. Like I said, the mind and the brain is two different things. There's many brains attached to the one mind, and that one mind is the God that everybody is looking for. It has totally nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with none of that. It's strictly pure, supreme mathematics. It's pure science is what it is that shows and proves that. And that mind is what manifested everything that you see. I'm gonna explain more, right? Walk with me real quick, right? Everything around you, right? Everything. I'm gonna drop the jewelry. Pay attention. Everything around you, from what you wearing, your clothes, right? From this joint I rolled, I'm smoking, from my hat, from this table right here, from this microphone, from even how this Instagram live is working right now. Everything was a thought first.
Right.
The car outside, you understand, this whole building, your physical body itself, everything was a thought first. A thought from what? A thought that manifested or that was born in that mind, that one mind. And that same, when you take it back far enough, like last week we talked about my father's father and your father's father and so forth and so on, and you go back far enough to eventually we got the same father.
Right.
You know what I mean? You go back far enough to a time where we was dealing with high sciences like telepathy. We deal with that's a reflection of what we're talking about now. Like I gave a reference with somebody singing a song that you was thinking, and you wasn't even saying it out loud. Same time you was. That's forms of the telepathy of us sharing thoughts. without even knowing how we sharing the thoughts.
Right.
And the reason we don't know how, because we don't exercise these powers.
Right.
And we haven't exercised them for a very, very, very long time, to the point these said powers have become dormant. These said powers have become dormant to the point where we look at that shit as magic, or we look at that shit as something that's unrealistic, or something that ain't real, when we experience it every day. We experience it every day. And this is part of being in tune with who we are. This is part of being in tune with understanding that one mind that I speak of, right? Check me. That one mind that I speak of is the supreme manifestor of life. That is our direct creator. That is our direct connection with the creator. That mind. The shit that everybody's running around looking for is already in you. You already attached to it. That same shit that got you listening to what I'm saying right now, digesting it, and really like, fuck, that makes sense. Or the same shit that's in me that allowed me to spew this information. Like that connection, that's how we connect. You dig what I'm saying?
I got you.
That's how we connect. And that's the God that we looking for. That's the shit that everybody's scared to question. That's the shit that everybody's scared to recognize with, to resonate with. Because why? Is foreign information. You know what I mean? Because that's not what's taught. You know what I mean? That type shit right there totally puts the responsibility in your ball court. It totally puts all responsibility on you now. You can't blame it on nothing but you now. Because all the other shit is made up. You know what I'm saying? All that other shit was made up as a tool to control the masses. You understand what I'm saying? It was all about control. Fuck God need with money.
Now, let's say I agree with you 100%.
All right.
My next question would be, where did the idea to create a mind come from, or has it always existed, or when did the mind come into existence, and
now, to
how was it
understand
created?
the concept of the mind, because you could always go back and forth with that. What came first, the chicken or the egg type shit? We could always do that. What created the mind? Then?
Right.
If that's the case, then what created the mind? God must have made the mind. All right, here we go.
That
With
would
that.
no.
I'm not saying you're saying that.
I want to. My question was simple. It's like when I added that extra negative to that equation.
Right, the 1 + 1.
Don't add that extra negative to the equation.
All right. I'm going to tell you. To understand the concept of the mind, first you got to understand the concept of something that's infinite. And by infinite, I mean always was. It's difficult to grasp the idea of what infinite is because we are in physical shells that have limitations. You dig what I'm saying? Your body itself is not infinite. That's why initially I made that difference in the mind and the brain.
Right.
That's physical.
Okay.
The mind is not something physical. It's not something that's physically tangible.
I agree.
Like a thought. You can't touch a thought. You can't grab an idea, like a physical idea with your hand. You could bring that idea to life, but the idea itself, you can't fucking touch that.
It starts in your mind.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like no different than you could close your eyes right now. All of us. You could close your eyes and picture anything you fucking want. Depending on how large or vivid your imagination is to determine how deep or in depth your pictures will be. But you could close your eyes and picture what you want. You know what I mean? I could picture I got a Maserati outside in my mind. I could picture what I want. I'm a billionaire with a Maserati and 6 mansions. You know what I mean? And I built 15 schools in my mind. You know, you can think what the fuck you want to think. Some people allow that shit to spew out into the real world through lies. But the truth is the truth at the end of the day.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's you being able to create those thoughts in your head is showing you there are no limitations on the mind.
So the mind is infinite. The
Infinite.
mind has always and will always be.
Yeah, somebody asked me trying to trip me up and shit. Like, yo.
No, I'm trying to.
you,
Okay,
not you.
I want to understand what's. I want.
Yeah, if you go ahead. I don't know if I clearly.
No, infinity.
It's infinite. It was always.
It's like
it
a
always
sideways
was.
figure 8. You know,
Right.
it'll never stop. It'll go on and on forever and ever. That's infinite, right?
Right.
And you establish. We all establish every day because we die every day. Is that the body is finite. So the mind continues on, and the mind has been there before the body existed.
Absolutely.
The mind is infinite.
Absolutely. Now, peep this, right? Somebody now, even with the infinite sign, just real quick, even with the infinite sign, you said it's like the letter 8.
It's
True.
a sideways 8 laid down on the
Sorta,
side.
but
That's what it looked like.
It looks like a sideways
Right.
8. An 8 crisscrosses to the point where there's an intersecting point where it cuts off.
But if you lay it down flat, then you'll see.
Even
it's not-
sideways, I wish we could I could draw one real fast to show you, but it has to be like the bubble 8. not just the regular 8.
No, I get it.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's an infinite flow, so you
Right.
could do the
So
constant
the lines
flow all
don't
the way
intersect.
around.
They only look like they intersect on a flat surface. On
Exactly.
a 3D surface, you would see every side of it, and you would see that does not intersect. It would
Absolutely.
only appear to from certain angles.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. But to get back onto your question, yeah, that's the science of always was. You know what I mean? That's some deep shit.
Right.
Like even when they say a person, even when we practice death and how we deal with death, we don't deal with it as if the person is gone. It's they moved on to another place. We
Right.
say
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you go back to where we came from. It's like you got an ocean of water, right? You know what I mean? You got your ocean of water. Saying, Daddy, how you doing, bro? Peace.
How you? Peace, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, King. We gonna build, King. Yeah, like say, yeah, like you got an ocean of water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a glass. Let's say you got an ocean of water, you got a glass, right?
Right.
You take the glass and you scoop up some of the water out the ocean.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
That water inside the glass is still ocean water, but it's not technically in the ocean, but it's still the same water.
Mm-hmm.
The glass is representative of your body. The glass that you scoop the water up with.
Right.
When you die, it's symbolic to the glass breaking, and then the water.
water
And
goes
what
back
happens?
into the
The water
collective,
goes back
into
to
the ocean.
Right, same place it came from.
Right.
It's the same science with who we are as people. You know what I mean? We're all who we are because of the walks we went through in life. Like we all are our own different. We are our own brain. You dig what I'm saying? We all are. We all have our own brain. Like my brain came through my parents and the experiences and things that I've experienced coming up where I was born at and where I lived at and the people who are around me at those times and the things they've said and the influences they were throughout my life, all created and were information that I chose to choose and not choose, and all that shit created me,
Right.
who I am, which makes me how I'm different than you,
Right.
but the same as you, because the only thing that makes me different
Is your
is my
glass.
experiences.
And that's your glass.
You think it's my glass, the experiences that my glass went
It's
through.
holding. Your glass is
Well-
different than your glass is different than my glass, but what's inside the two is the same.
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day.
it's the same water on the
Right.
inside, though.
Exactly.
That's
That's
from
what I'm
the
saying.
same
The
source. Facts.
The water is the same.
That's
the glass
point
is
I'm making.
different.
So if that's the jewelry, if that's the jewel,
Right.
then where's the weight in religion? Why are we separating the glasses when it's the same fucking water?
The weight is you know what? You say why is the weight different, right? The weight is the same because I'm thinking of it from an unbiased point of view, right? And I say the weight is the same because what they call what religious believers would call what you would call the water or infinity, I can question that.
Okay.
I know what infinity is, and I know it exists, right?
Mhm.
I know that infinity exists, right?
Right.
But the challenge is to get folks who don't understand infinity or the fact that a belief that the mind is infinite. If you took that same concept and indoctrinated those folks with that idea from birth, that's what they would embrace. So instead, they embrace the idea of faith. And faith can be equated to infinity, right? Because faith goes on without a tangible in your hand that you can say this exists. Infinity is not a tangible that you can hold in your hand and say exists. So you challenge them to use the same belief process, right? It's just the way you indoctrinate that belief.
Right. But see, you can't hold, like you said, that infinity as something tangible in your hand that exists. No different than the thought that I spoke of. You can't hold in your hand to prove that it exists. However, the manifestation of that thought, whether it's just through the mere words coming out my mouth, because every word out my mouth, every word I utter is a direct reflection of my thoughts. You dig what I'm saying? That's where they come from.
Right.
So that's born in life. That's showing you that these things exist. The infinite part, that is manifested through life itself.
To a degree, because, and I say that because you can say that's a manifestation of infinity. Life is. You can say life is a manifestation of infinity, but you can only prove it at 2 points. That's your birth and that's your death. You can't. Like you said, no one's ever come back from death and said this is what it is. You can't experience that kind of infinity the same way nobody can experience death and come back and say that's.
We experience infinity when we study the stars and we study when we study the depths of the universe and how far that shit expands and how we can see how it keeps expanding and how there is no beginning or ending with it. There is a concept of beginning with the universe with the Big Bang Theory, but even that itself is questionable because it Big Banged out of what? Which would have been another just understanding the concept of physics and how life within itself works somewhat explains the idea of infinity, always was, because even the word itself was manifested from the thought of what the hell, how the hell do you even measure that?
Well, it's like we
you
build.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like we building right now. But the thing is, the same way that was a theory at one point that everything evolved from the Big Bang. There's now a theory, or there's several theories that say that there's been more than one Big Bang. That the same way we breathe, inhale and exhale, there's an ebb and a flow. There's a belief that there's a Big Bang over and over. They're saying that now they can measure. All right, you're saying that the universe is expanding. Now science is saying that the universe expands and contracts.
Contracts. I've heard that as well.
Right. So, but that was built on after people even said the universe was expanding. That was built on before
it's the chicken.
A Big Bang.
But then again, it's the chicken and the egg.
Because, but I dig what you're saying.
Because look, even within that, there's infinite. Because yes, all right, it's expanding, then it retracts, right? Where it Big Banged into expansion, and then it expands to whatever point it can, to where
it contracts back into a point, tiny point,
where it Big Bangs again.
And then it bangs again. That's the ebb and flow.
And
inhale,
and
exhale.
How long that's been happening?
Infinity.
Exactly.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just challenging you the same way you challenge folks to think in a way that, okay, you want me to believe this, right? Based on what? I want you to believe this. Not that you want, that you're even promoting a belief in anything. You're challenging a thought, right? And I'm challenging that same thought. And the thought is, why is a believer and why is a non-believer a non-believer? Or why do you believe
it's about being in tune. Like the whole purpose of even why this fucking podcast even exists, right? Is about being in tune with the universe. Period. Sweet. Like the whole reason why like people bug out on me, they wig out on me like, yo, why you answer your phone peace instead of saying hello? Because peace is the absence of chaos, first of all. And we're going to come as how we leave. We say peace when we leaving as well, because we're trying to eliminate the chaos. That's the whole point of everything. We can sit here bitch and moan all day about how things is messed up, but if we're not trying to bring peace, then what are we talking about? What is the point of anything that we doing if we're not trying to bring peace? So with that whole idea, that whole concept is the reason why we build on the right way to walk and talk this. You understand? The way we view it is seeing to go with the natural order of the universe. And we do that. How do you do that? You say, and that's by studying the universe. You got to let go a lot of things that we were taught, because a lot of things that we were taught to us to control us, were taught to us to limit our thinking, were taught to us to keep us from being the supreme people who we are. You know, I asked you a question. What did we as original people, what did we study before? Who did we pray to before slavery? Answer that question. You know what I mean? Have you even thought about that? Or did you even care?
Me personally, or
not you,
okay,
or anyone? You understand? It's a general
right.
question. Like, do we even care about that? You know what I mean? We see the posts about it. We see, you know what I mean, memes having fun with this shit. But at the end of the day, what's up? That's where I'm at with it. Like, we can have fun with it all day long. But if we not gonna teach, why play with it? You know what I mean? Why jokeify it? I made that word up, by the way. Jokeify that shit.
No,
you know what?
Dig this. I like that. That's what's up. I'm appreciating where you're going with that. And on that note, right? Peace, and also, you know, the thoughts and the process that goes into thoughts and the education, right? I think that's something we need to talk about. I think we need to talk about peace in our communities.
Right.
The miseducation of our babies, right? And a concept that I think you want to talk about, and that's a nice segue in.
It
Why don't you
is.
tell us what that is?
What it is, a lot of us we've heard about the
School
to prison pipeline. We've heard that one. A concept and an idea I wanna address is the womb to prison pipeline.
Right.
Reflecting on that it starts way before we're even in school. Like the womb to prison pipeline is reflective of the damage beginning at home. And sometimes, almost all the time, is unconscious damage that we're causing. It's damage that we're not even aware that we're causing. And it's damage sometimes that's disguised as love.
Right.
That is the beginning effects and the beginning stages of walking our people into them prison walls, because we aren't teaching things like control. We're not teaching things like self-love. We're not teaching things about self-education and knowledge of self. We're not teaching these things at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think we really need to touch on that. We about to take a break real fast. Hey, Toot, if you got a joint you want to throw up, man, some SunWun shit or whoever, something that's in tune with what we talking about, it's all love. We're going to play a record or two. We're going to come back and, really talk about that womb to prison pipeline, because I think that's a big part and a big reason of why we are going through the things that we're going through in our community. So, we're going to address that. We got to go to the root. That's what Diamond and Steel Podcast is all about.
The womb, the root.
Going
right.
to the root, what I mean? Where it all
Right.
started.
Right.
That's the only way we're going to bring any change, if we go to the root and fix that.
Steel sharpens steel. Let's
Steel
do it.
sharp as steel all the time.
Let's do
all
it.
the time we build it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but whatever you got over there, too, it's all love, man. I think they're going to love it anyway. You know what I mean? You is the GOAT.
I like that ROR shit.
That's cool. So, yeah, we're going to get that.
I'm in the room with the smoke, unforgettable quotes, miraculous dope stuck in the speakers. Let's go to a place they don't go. I only know cause I go. In fact, I built a house there and made them shovel my snow. We so icy in July, get your skellies and coats. Take your time, little bro. You don't smoke what we smoke. Superpowers got me thinking I can pick up a boat. And the water's so wavy, we be doing the most. I'm a king when I talk, jewelry in my thoughts. Put my voice into computers, let it blend with the bass. Sipping on some new liquor while we smoking the safe. I'm with cool in the bins, we trying to make new friends. I'm talking about girlfriends, who got more girlfriends than just tonight. Baby girl, you'll be my girlfriend. Yo, I won't tell if you don't, I know she probably will. And now her girlfriends want me and they all on my heels. Yeah.
Cold in July, either you going to jail or you going to die. It gets cold in July, either you on the boat or you going to fly. Hey yo, love going to trump the hate every time. The pain going to suffocate you if you cry. We was in December making moves for July. SunWun said snow and it fell out the sky. I swear I never lied, probably only to my wife. And that came with a psych. Motorcycle jacket, that came with a bike. Thumb up on the gram, that came with a like. I came with a dike, left with 3 bitches like I'm trafficking at night. Like I'm King Jaffe Joffre and I'm African at night. I'm telling you, they envy when they ask about my life. So I don't talk about it, I just tell them I'm alright. Better than some, worse than other niggas like. The Timbs got jealous of the Benz. The nigga in the wheelchair got jealous of the Timbs. And the nigga that's dead was jealous of his friends. It's cold in July, I can't wait till the winter. It's cold in July, I can't wait till the winter. Cause it gets cold in July, either you going to jail or you going to die. It gets cold in July, either you on the boat or you going to fly. It gets cold in July, so look at me, I'm Rodeo or Ocean Drive. It gets cold in July.
We rolling, we strolling, somewhere down on Tioga. I'm so fresh, oh yes, with no designer on me. Yo, I'm him, yo, no lie, yo, you should hear my story. that and went back. They wasn't ready for us. We let off just one shot. Let them know I had the cannon on me. Let them know if I show it, I'ma let it off. Ain't no point in talking about it, I'ma let it off. I ain't even playing with it, I'ma need it all. So I grind all day till I came back from a 1-hour visit with my brother in the pen, and he swear he ain't did it. Wrong place with the wrong skin pigment. Paint the picture so vivid when the pace on the visit. Shouldn't talk about the pain you ain't feeling. On the gram and he all in his feelings. Talking about he ain't one of the realest. Yo, bro, go home, take care of your children. I'm on the roof where the world look bigger. I'm a king in your eyes, I'm a nigga. Trying to scam on some things cause a hard time living. Pay attention, you can see I'm different. King talk, only talk that I utter. In the storm with no umbrella. Ducking rain, trying to make life better. This off the top, it's just an open letter. It's just an open letter. It's just an open letter. Straight off top, it's just an open letter. It's just an open letter. It's an open letter. Straight off top, it was an open letter. Straight off top, it was an open letter. Straight off top, open letter. We rolling, we strolling, somewhere down on Tioga. I'm so fresh, oh yes, with no designer on me. Yo, I'm him, yo, no lie. Yo, you should hear my story. Been through that pain for glory. Territory fights was mandatory. We rolling, we strolling, somewhere down on Tioga. I'm so fresh, oh yes, with no designer on me. Yo, I'm him, yo, no lie. Yo, you should hear my story. Been through that pain for glory. Territory fights was mandatory. We focused, you know this. Elevated to a king from a soldier. We smoking, it's potent. Goddamn, I think I'm floating. Yo, roll up, just one more. Matter of fact, 2 more, no, 3 more. From New York to be more. Through North Philly with the detour. One day at a time, gotta make it. Keep it real every day, can't fake it. Nowadays, they got too many faces. Killing each other all because of self-hatred. Every day ain't getting no better. Same shade, all they know is bad weather. Ducking the rain, trying to make life better. This off the top, it's just the open letter. It's just the open letter. It's just the open letter. Straight off top, it's just the open letter. It's just the open letter. It's an open letter. Straight off top, it was an open letter. Straight off top, it was an open letter. Straight off top, open letter. We rolling, we strolling, somewhere down on Tioga. I'm so fresh, oh yes, with no designer on me. Yo, I'm him, yo, no lie. Yo, you should hear my story. Been through that pain for glory. Territory fights was mandatory. We rolling, we strolling, somewhere down on Tioga. I'm so fresh, oh yes, with no designer on me. Yo, I'm him, yo, no lie. Yo, you should hear my story. Been through that pain for glory. Territory fights was mandatory. Mandatory, mandatory.
No doubt. We back. That's what's up. We back at it again. The Diamond and Steel Podcast. I'm your host, Rod D Supreme, aka SunWun. And I'm in here with my legal advisor. I say it right that time?
No, I'm like I give you the legal information. I can't.
My
give you
legal
advice.
informer.
Yeah. Fuck around, had me disbarred. I ain't even get past the bar yet.
Son. Nah, I don't want to do that and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's work. We gotta work together on this.
Yeah, we together,
This
man.
a community effort. We
So
all
my
trying
guy
to
who
get this
gives
law
me,
degree.
he talks to me about legal shit.
Right.
That's what he do.
Right.
My man, Guy Lang G Money over here, man. He's official. We was talking about, before we went to the break, we were talking about the segue into the womb to prison pipeline and what that means.
Right.
Now, obviously, we all know the womb is where life is manifesting.
Right.
You know, we all know the womb is where we are our first experiences on this planet. Obviously, we don't remember that shit. Our brains weren't developed enough to even hold the memory. However, the feelings and the diets we were being exposed to, you know what I mean? What your mother ate, you ate. You know what I'm saying? What your mother felt, you felt.
Right.
So even in the womb, we began to deal with life. Before we even knew we were dealing with life. You know?
So we want to talk about the womb to prison pipeline, right?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that what your mother ate, you ate.
Right.
In the womb. Right. You didn't. You didn't have a whole, chicken leg, and you was chewing on that joint or whatever, or you wasn't eating a piece of kale but whatever she consumed, those nutrients went to you. So here's a thought, right? Peep game.
We back.
45%
Right. I'm listening.
of all people born into poverty will remain in poverty.
Say that again.
45% of all Americans who are born in poverty will remain in poverty, right? So poverty, part of poverty is the lack of nutritional food that you feed in your babies.
Mental and physical food.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what poverty will do to you, because it got you thinking about some other shit.
Right.
So, and 22% of Americans live in poverty. 45% of those 22% who live in poverty will remain in poverty.
Wow.
That's by design. So when you have food stores, or the inability to have access to food stores, and you can't feed your family right, so number one, you're feeding your child mentally and physically damaging food or non-nutritional food, right? Because now 20% of Americans, and this is not a third world country, we live in America, right? One of the wealthiest countries on the planet, probably arguably the wealthiest country on the planet.
Facts.
But 20% of our citizens are challenged with food, with putting nutritional food in their homes and in their bodies to feed their families. So you can't. So that drives what you might. That's why there's a correlation between poverty and crime, right? So if you constantly thinking about feeding your seed, feeding your family and such, you're not thinking about growth. You're not thinking about thriving. You're not thinking about building.
Right.
You thinking about feeding your family and feeding your folks, right?
Right.
So now, and not to mention, you don't even know that you almost have a half a chance, these kids that you had, of staying in the same situation that you're in without coming out of it.
Right.
Right. And part of that is the criminality of poverty. Poverty is criminalized in the United States, right? The percentages of folks who are incarcerated, who experience poverty or live in poverty,
right,
is the majority of the folks who are incarcerated or affected negatively by the criminal justice system.
And it's a conditioning, because one, when you're dealing with that type of lifestyle, obviously you're not the only one that's going through it. It's a whole community of people who are experiencing that same lifestyle, who live amongst you, live around you. And when that's all that you see around you, that's all you know, and that's all you think. And it becomes, again, a part of you. Same way as religion does. It becomes a part of you when you allow these things to resonate with you at a young age. That's all you know. Like, we can all think back when we were children, when we were small. We don't remember everything, of course not. But we could think back when we were all younger, and think about how we admired adults. You know what I'm saying? Think about how we admired grown-ups and how we viewed grown-ups when we were younger. Think about that.
Right.
Like, I'm talking about at a time where, like, I don't know if you can remember how old some of you are who tuned in, but think about a time when you would see a person cross the street when you couldn't. Like, you weren't allowed to go in the street. And you see an adult walk, something as trivial as crossing the fucking street. You're like, oh shit, I can't wait. I can't wait till I'm old enough and I can cross the street. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or you see an adult smoking a cigarette or smoking weed or cussing. Because it was a gang of that. We didn't have a bunch of shit to look up to when you coming up in the hood. When you coming up in the ghetto, you don't have a lot of things to look up to. Like, we didn't have an abundance of doctors, people that we saw becoming doctors. We didn't have an abundance of people who were becoming lawyers. What we looked up to, and we hear it in every rap record, what we looked up to was the drug dealers.
Right.
You know what I mean? What we looked up to was our high aunt. You know what I'm saying? Who had the good bud and shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
That's the
right.
shit that we looked up to. So obviously, these are the things that influenced us. And that type of influence only births bad habits. You know what I mean? That only births a mentality that's, like you said, 45% of us stay in
poverty. When we're born in poverty.
When you're born in poverty, 45% of us is going to stay in poverty. And I wonder what percentage of that 45% is cool with it. Maybe 100.
Or because yeah, I mean, come on, like,
that's why you stay there.
That's what you know.
That's all you know.
You know how to maneuver.
And not
it.
only
You know how to get by.
It comes to a point where that 45% begin to glorify poverty. When it gets to the point where it's acceptable, like certain things are acceptable, certain things are now a joke, or certain things are now something that we view as it's just cool at the end of the day. And that's what makes it easy to stay fucked up. Like, if you standing in front of a deli all day and you're the only person out there, 10 times out of 10 you're gonna find something else to do. But if you stand in front of the deli all day and there's 4 or 5 other people out there with you, that makes it a little easier to stand out there all day and do nothing.
It do, but dig this though. I hear what you're saying, right? That might become normal to you. That might become, you know what I mean? You
right,
might
that's
start
what we're supposed to do.
Right, but how about this? After, maybe it's a process, and at some point you do actually, glorify it. But then, what about the next step? How about if the next step after glorifying it would be resenting it? And then once you resent it, you act on that resentment because you understand the inequity that's been built into our systems. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you gave me the little hypothetical of the young boys outside the deli. Mm-hmm. When they start to look inside that deli and say, "Yo, man, you brought just a baby prison to my crib. You got these gates up, these bars up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This glass up. Every night before you roll out, you pull this gate down. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, and you creating a small prison for me, and somebody enlightens them to that. Mm-hmm. Once they become, after they glorified, because I think we're starting to come beyond the stage of glorification of that kind of bullshit. I think now we're moving more into the stage of resentment, and I think once that resentment kicks in, you know what? Chinese store, man, you got to roll, like, take it on the hill, scram, get the fuck out of here, beat it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you move in something else there. So I think maybe that was the norm for a while, but when you got cats that's willing to talk to young brothers that's out in front of the deli, the Chinese store at the top of the block, around the corner, you know what I mean, sitting on the edge of the truck and all that dumb shit or whatever, you know what I mean? I can't even call it that because so many of our places where safe places for us have been turned into spaces where we can't, like recreation centers shutting down, schools closing down, prisons opening up, programs is gone. Like, even if you do go to a school, you ain't going to a school that got a basketball program, a chess program. Right. It don't have an engineering program. It don't have a STEM program. It don't have an international baccalaureate program.
And not to mention the rewind before that, your mother or your father or both are at work all day.
All
every
day. And you know what they doing? They trying to give you shit that they didn't have to keep you out of poverty, not understanding that lack of time that they spending at home is what's creating the poverty too. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So now circle back to that piece, right? What I'm saying with the resentful piece. Now you got these kids that might feel entitled, but if we can give them a cure or a solution for that glorification, which could be that resentment, or it could just be the next stage after the resentment, which is going to be, now we got to take what belongs to us. Like, because you're right, I shouldn't be standing out in front of this fucking store. I should be owning this joint.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't be standing out.
That's education that has to take place. For one, we know firsthand, schools that are in our communities do not teach entrepreneur
Hell no.
Tactics. It doesn't. The schools in our communities do not teach about taxes. It do not teach about saving money.
They don't teach financial literacy.
None of that. It don't teach none of that.
You know what? Listen to this, and I want to ask your opinion on something, and I want your honest opinion on this. If anybody want to call in and add on or whatever, I'm good with that because I want to understand. I want to understand what's really good as far as the education piece. And I'm a support this with numbers, right? my position. I want to know your position. If it's different, I want to know it because I need to know how to attack this, right?
Right.
1 in 3 African American young people will find themselves incarcerated. Right?
1 out of 3.
1 out of 3. And so that being the case, we tuck that away because I just wanted to give you something to put it into context with, right? So now you tuck that away. Now you know 1 out of 3. Boom. That's your math. That's your number. That's that's a much larger number than the number of our children who will go to college, right? So,
do you know what the number is for the children who go to college? Is it like 1 out of 5?
African American children, I think it's smaller than that, but I can't say for sure, so I'm not even going to speak on that. But I know the number is smaller. So that being the case,
smaller meaning like maybe 1 out of 8.
I'm thinking probably smaller than that.
Like 1 out of 15.
I'm probably right around there, maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 11, something like that, right?
Okay.
I think the numbers is they real light compared to the numbers that's go. 1/3 of us is going to prison. So when you look at our children, it's not it's not if you're going to jail, it's when you're going to jail. It's not if you get incarcerated, it's when you get incarcerated. So my question that I wanted to pose based on that information that I just shared with you, right? Those stats on the number of us that's going to jail. So my numbers wasn't really focused on how many of us are going to college, right? My numbers are focused on how many of us go to jail. So because they have programs in schools that are designed to get us into college, right? So they say, right? They put you on that track, prep schools, the whole 9 yard.
Right.
I think, and you tell me what you think when I'm done. I think that every school that teaches any black child should have a curriculum that says, this is how you avoid the criminal justice system, or these are the rights you need to know that you have. This is the system that you need to learn about. And it all needs to be, not all, but every school that teaches our children in America, because America says to us and our children that they're going to jail, right? So my thoughts are that I think every school in America that teaches a black child, even if it's just 1 out of 1,000, needs to have a curriculum that teaches these children statutes, laws, their rights, the system, how to stay away from the system and all that. So tell me, what do you think about adding that to our curriculum, at least until we reach a point where the numbers are not as disparate as they are now?
I agree with that 110%. And the reason I agree with it at such a level is because I understand the dynamics of teaching how to stay out of the prison system. You know what I mean? Because it involves things like how to deal with police, for one. It has to involve things like how to deal with peer pressure. It has to involve things like as deep as how to deal with your diet, even. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that opens up a whole new world of education because a lot of people aren't familiar with that. Or even what the concept of that is. They don't even know. They don't know at all. Like, all right, what does that look like? You know what I mean? Because you're right. I think that's needed. But what does that look like? What does that curriculum look like?
I know what that curriculum looks like.
You know what I'm saying? And does it? But see, that curriculum is reflective of something I think is against the total grain of what people talk about in the school to prison pipeline. Because a lot of the things you even mentioned just now that we don't have in the school districts nowadays is the reasons why we lose interest quickly. You know what I mean? There's a disinterest when it comes to school nowadays because it's not made interesting anymore. And if you don't got school, what else you got? The streets.
Well, they're not teaching us they aren't teaching our children what our children need to learn, and that's part of disinterest. And not just that, son. We've got to understand our children are not the same as everybody else's children. You know, our children don't learn the same as everybody else's children.
Facts.
It's not, you can't use the same tools to teach our children that you teach other children and think it's going to be successful. You can't develop the same kind of tests and believe, okay, that the LSAT or the SAT or the ACT or the GRE or any of those tests, you can't say that those tests are designed for our children to be successful. It's been proven time and again that those tests aren't made for our children to be successful. So there you lose interest. You lose interest right there. Like, you're teaching me something and you're teaching it in a way that it's not effective for me.
Right.
Right. So now you got a kid in a classroom that you're not teaching properly. Number one, you're not even teaching this kid the material that he needs to know. You dedicate a month out of the year and call it Black History Month or whatever.
The shortest month.
The whole year should be dedicated.
Absolutely.
To Black history.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You can't, but we allow our children into a system to teach our children that wasn't designed for our children to succeed. So now we got that in place. So you gotta take the kids and you gotta figure out, number one, how do you get rid of that other curriculum that's not teaching my children, number one, anything they need to know, right? Not necessarily anything they need to know, because we do need to know some shit, right? Mm-hmm. Universal shit, science, math, you need to know that. Right? And even literature, but come on, teach me my literature. Teach me the literature that makes me who I am.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Creative art.
They can't teach you what they don't know.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That just reinforces exactly what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Number one, you don't have the material. You aren't going to teach me the material that I need to learn. And number two, you're not going to teach it to me in a way that's effective for my children.
In the way I need to learn it. It's
exactly.
A way, it's a science and a method in how you teach. And the first classroom, the first school, did you know, here's the jewel, and this is a fact. It was in Boston, Massachusetts. The year, I'm not sure. We're going to do the research. But the very first school manifested out of a church. Did you know that?
In America?
In America.
Okay.
In America. In the United States of America, the very first school manifested out of a church. And even if you look at the format and how school is set up, it's very similar to a church. You got the preacher in the front, mm-hmm. and you got the pupil. You got all the students, if mm-hmm. you will, sitting listening to one instructor.
Right.
Everyone's sitting facing that one instructor. Same thing in school. There's mm-hmm. the teacher up front in the front of the classroom, and everybody's facing the teacher, listening to one person. That is a very controlling way of educating the masses. That it's supposed to be interactive. That's mm-hmm. forcing one person, we're in a room of sometimes 30, 35 students, mm-hmm. and you're forcing the perspective of one person onto 30, 35 people mm-hmm. based off of a curriculum that's forced onto the curriculum is the same across the board because there's certain guidelines they're trying to keep the education system within.
Right.
And if you're not following that curriculum, they're shutting you down. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that. Even if what you're following outside of the curriculum is proven to be more effective than what the curriculum is doing, mm-hmm. if you're not teaching that curriculum, they're shutting your shit down. Mm-hmm. And that's to show that it's all by design. Mm-hmm. And that's to show that we got the fact that we understand the origins of, first of all, public school is easy. Mm-hmm. You take your children up there, you sign them up, they take them in, it's a wrap, you don't pay no money. In fact, they give them free lunch sometimes. Mm-hmm. That shit's dumb easy. Mm-hmm. And we've become accustomed to easy because life is so fucking hard. And we want the most easiest shit for us.
Yo,
you
but
know what I'm saying?
Peep game. Education is not easy for us. I mean, it's not hard for us. Education is easy for us. You can ask any kid between 6 and whatever age.
I'm not saying that the education for us was hard or easy. Mm-hmm. I was speaking about the process that it takes to get into public school versus certain charter schools or certain, more advanced education type schools or certain private schools even, which cost money, like that type shit, which are proven to be better schools. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because they go far and beyond what the curriculum is in a lot of these places. Mm-hmm. Whereas the general public school, which most of them are fucking shutting down anyway, but the general public school system mm-hmm. is based solely off of that curriculum. They on some, I'm going to come do my 8 hours and I'm out with the teachers. The students be so fucking unruly mm-hmm. that they could barely even teach. But
wait,
for the parent,
chill. Them kids ain't always unruly. That's a narrative that's put out there for us. But go ahead.
It's unruly in regard, and not
them
to
kids
say
not unruly.
Listen,
yo, they not unruly.
But
they got teachers that don't know how to teach them.
True, that too. But see, understand what we just said, right?
Right.
The curriculum. Hear me out.
I'm gonna support the whole thing that you're saying right now. I dig what you're saying.
And I'm gonna give you some support for it in a minute. The unruly part is inevitable, and let me tell you why. Because again, the method and the science and method and how they teaching is not in sync with how we're designed to learn.
Exactly.
So therefore, it's going to be unruly.
They not unruly though. They not unruly.
Based upon their rules, it is.
They kids.
This podcast is unruly.
Based on their rules.
Facts.
Exactly.
That's the point I'm getting to.
Based
That's
on the rules.
Exactly.
Right. So that goes right back to support the fact that our children are criminalized. We have a different set of rules we gotta follow.
That's the point I'm making.
Here's the key, and I'm gonna help you make your point.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say this, right? Every kid that you know, probably from age 4 or 5 all the way up till they're an adult, every one of their favorite songs, they can recite it to you to death. They can say it with a whole different tune behind it. They can say it slow or fast. They favorite song. They can dance that joint and throw a couple spins on it and do all kind of everything with it. Our children can learn. One child, 10 years old, probably can know 150 rap songs. You know how much content that is? A rap song, if you write it out, it's probably maybe 2 pages. Mm-hmm. But you got a 10-year-old kid that knows 100 rap songs.
And this is...
You know how many pages of material it is that kid has memorized without reading a single word?
When we was building last week, just to revisit it, it's funny how things come full circle. We were building last week about a time before books. And a time when how information was passed. And how was that? It was through stories and through song.
Right.
You know what I mean? How information was passed.
That's how we thrived.
Exactly. Which is also the root and birth of a lot of religions. Mm-hmm. Through these said stories that was passed down generation to generation, eventually transformed into that. But that shows right in sync with what you were just talking about. They did that because that was the best way to learn. That was the best way to retain information was through a song or through a story.
And taking away or taking that piece out of education, song and dance, you effectively remove a part of the ability for those children, our children, to learn, right? And not just our children to learn, right? Because you know where that was removed from before it was even removed from education or even removed, from a lot of different activities that we engage in. It was removed from the religion that these people practice. You can take, for instance, Haiti, right? Haitians, a lot of them practice voodoo, or and we might call it voodoo, or you can put a taboo on it and make it sound like it's something that is different than what it is or what it was designed to be, which is a religion, a way for a person to make him or herself better, right? But they practiced it with music, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the revolutions in America came out, a lot of the communication was music through the drums, you know what I mean, through songs and the whole 9 yards. And folks know, you know what? Them folks learned that. Like, 100 years later, now we understand what they were saying. You dig me? So if we know that, if society knows better ways to educate our children, but we choose to ignore it and allow a system to remain in place that's going to take them from the womb to the prison, it's not up to us. We're doing our children a disservice by even placing them in that system. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. We're doing our children a disservice by allowing a system and a society to teach them and train them ways and material. Number one, that they shouldn't be learning in those ways, and that's material that they shouldn't be learning either.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So you develop that, and now you develop criminality, because now you say, okay, anything that you do outside of this box that we create for you, that's a crime. And now we're going to move police officers into your schools. When I was coming up, there wasn't a cop in my. Was there ever a cop in your school?
No.
When you got into a fight, what happened?
They broke it up when you got suspended.
You got suspended. You might get a detention. And if you had 3 fights, you might have got expelled.
Right.
Wasn't nobody calling the cops. You wasn't catching assault charges and aggravated assault. You wasn't catching none of that.
That's a fact.
Everything has been criminalized. You talking to the teacher wrong is might catch you a charge. You pulling your arm away from a person who's touching you in a way that you don't want to be touched, which actually is the assault. Right, is an uninvited, unwelcome touch, right, to your person or your property by another person, right?
Absolutely.
So if I grab you like this and I'm a teacher, you still a person. You still a citizen.
And it's an unwanted grab or touch.
Right. You have rights. You don't want me touching you like that. But instead of them charging this teacher with assault, they're going to charge, like, you snatch your arm away.
Right. I get charged with the assault.
You catching that charge.
Facts.
Because
I experienced that firsthand.
So you
with
dig what I'm
police,
saying?
with police, yeah, I experienced that.
Well, that's
firsthand with
that's
police.
how they jam you anyway.
Absolutely.
That's their whole twist.
Absolutely. Police officer had grabbed my arm one time, and I snatched away from him, and they tried to say I assaulted the officer by pulling away from the officer.
Right.
Like, come on, B, you gotta relax.
So yeah, going back to what we were saying, man, education our children are the easiest to educate if you ask me. They are not a challenge to educate. They're not kids that are unruly, none of that, man. If you teach these kids in a way that they want to learn, like through music therapy, through music engagement, through creative arts, through creative activity, every kid in the neighborhood would love to sit behind this desk that we sitting at with these microphones in front of them saying or doing something with a microphone, because they want to use their voice and they want their voice to be heard. Right. And you give them that, and next thing you know, you got something good. You got something where the kids can learn, and we don't want to use the methods to teach our children in a way that they should be taught, that they can learn, and that's a challenge.
Nothing influences a larger group of people faster than music.
Right.
Nothing reaches. That's speakers is designed to amplify the sound over a larger stretch of land. You dig what I'm saying? So it can reach more people.
A larger audience.
At the same time.
Exactly.
Versus having to pass it person to person at the same time, it reaches everybody. You dig? So that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that explains why music has changed the way that it has. Because they recognize the power that's in it. That's the reason why every record that you hear on the radio right now has something that's a vibration that's hurting our people. Every single one of them.
Right.
Every single one of the hip hop records that's on the radio that plays 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day.
Right.
Has a message in it that's harmful to our people. Every single one of them. And we recognize it. We do.
Right.
I don't dare want to sit here and say that we don't recognize it. The scary part is we recognize it and we feel as though there's nothing we can do about it. You know, we feel as though, because we don't do nothing about it. To the point where we support it. I listen to some of this shit.
Listen, me too.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's to the point where I'm the ones who support it in a sense. I could ride by my car and be playing some Benny the Butcher shit. You know what I'm saying? That shit's talk about selling crack.
Right.
All the records. I mean, of course, I had to do this to make it type of idea. We get it.
Right.
But it's still, that's what it is. And that shit, at the end of the day, we've accepted that that's just what we do. Not in just a blind eye on is fucking the community up. No, that seems like you on some black power preaching shit, when at the end of the day it is.
Well, we know the difference, though. We know the difference. We know the difference in entertainment and what's real and what's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you see Tekashi 6ix9ine or whatever. He out there ratting everybody out, but was throwing up gang signs this time 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So we know, like, it don't even matter to me if whatever he was preaching was real or not. I have the ability to look at that material and decide whether or not that's something I want to do. So I'm not quite certain if I know that the media controls the narrative. I know the media says, you know, this is the music that you're going to listen to. So that low-hanging fruit, them cats that's saying, you know what, that's what I'm going to be a part of, and all you got to do is play that kind of music, right. that the media is controlling them. But people who have the ability to look at that material and say, you know, that's not what I'm about, or I'm not in that. This is entertainment for me. I'm going to listen to that song and I'm going to, you know what I mean, enjoy it, but that's not my life. So you got kind of a difference there. I think the point I want to make is we have different ways that we can teach our children and have them retain information and be the best and the brightest on the planet, which is what they are, right?
Right.
If we employ those techniques. And there's a reason why we don't employ those techniques, but there's also a reason why we will start to, and I see the trend. You know what I'm saying? It's not a heavy trend right now, but I know some of the folks that I work with, we're working on like music initiatives to teach children and other different initiatives. So, you know, I think, you know, if we teach our children and with the techniques that they need to learn, that they use to learn, where we know they retain information, we know they retain songs, we know they can retain dance, we know they can retain, they can recite every line out of New Jack City. They can recite every line out of The Godfather, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They can go back to Sugar Hill and go back to Ray Nathan Sr.'s monologue where he was saying, and everybody told me, there's your God. You know what I'm saying? And they'll run it down.
They'll run it down.
I hear it. So, you know, we just need to, number one, figure out what material our children need to learn. And we already know that, right? And then the only other thing is how we're going to teach them, and we know that too.
The root is we eventually got to build our own schools. You know, I don't know, we got to start a fund. You know what I mean? Where we putting up, everybody just put up 10 hours a week or something, or we just literally set up a homeschooling situation where we homeschooling all our children, and we got facilities.
Speak on it.
Where our children who are being homeschooled, they'll all come to this said facility, and we'll incorporate our own curriculum surrounded around the curriculums that are already in place with the homeschooling situation. Like, there are many different ways we could go about getting a hold on our youth and our babies, because they're the ones who are going to save us.
Right.
They're the ones who are going to bring the change to the dismay that we see. And the only way they're going to effectively be able to bring it is if they're educated correctly. So when they coming up, instead of being instilled with the bullshit that we were instilled with, they'll have a different direction and a different perspective on how they do things. Hey, Toucan, did you get the email with the oh, is that joint ain't gonna work? They gotta be the MP3 joints. All right, cool. Yeah, if you got some joints we could throw on, we're gonna take a break on this joint. And, yeah, that's a good one. And we're gonna be back in 2 and 2 on this joint.
Charger, Mustang,
The muscle car.
Camaro.
I took the badges off my shit, bro.
What you running like, bro?
Niggas don't even know if this shit XST, RT, Hellcat.
Muscle shit.
None of that shit. I pull up on niggas at the light, bro. They be looking at my shit like it's black on black, but you ain't right.
Doing the whole dash, doing the digital dash, making that needle.
First of all,
Doing the whole dash, making the needle.
this shit is a fucking 3.6, boy. 3.8, fucking
Push the pedal to the metal, smell the tires I burn. Whole hood lifting up, fish tail when I turn. I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move, middle finger out the window. Got my shit running right, revving up the loud pipes. Leave your ass at the light. I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move.
We in the Ville, let's ride. Everything is red line. Every street Autobahn. Broad Street down the market. When I rev, you get nauseous. Hellcat dual exhaust, kid. Trying to hit 220, then I spin back. Leave smoke everywhere that I've been at. Red line, first time, never went back. Speed limit, no sir, never did that. All black from the rims to the gas cap. Seat back, dark tint, can't see us. Hit the gas, hold on for the head rush. Relax, interior so plush. Straight away, here it come, better buckle up. Gotta do the whole dash, gotta speed up.
Push the pedal to the metal, smell the tires I burn. Whole hood lifting up, fish tail when I turn. I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move, middle finger out the window. Got my shit running right, revving up the loud pipes. Leave your ass at the light. I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing the whole dash, I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move.
Blowing smoke out the window, switching lanes, no signals. Fill the bass with that tempo. Engine on loop for Vigno. 3 a.m. all the red lights. We treating those like stop signs. We ain't waiting for the red line. We addicted to the fast life. Smell the smoke when I burn. Hold the steering wheel firm. Hit the lights when I slide. Move so fast when I fly. Hit the gas, no brakes. In the trunk I got bass. Pedal to the floor, engine on roll, little homie, you don't wanna race.
So I'm at the light, right? Yeah, the nigga pulls up on me beside me, bro, trying to rev up on me and shit. He didn't know I took the badges off my shit, bro. Yeah. So you know what I had to do. What you do, bro? What you do? What you do? Left him at the light. Push the pedal to the metal, smell the tires I burn. Whole hood lifting up,
fishtail when I turn. I'm doing the whole dash. I'm doing the whole dash. I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move. Middle finger out the window. Yeah. Got my shit running right. Yeah. Revving up the loud pipes. Leave your ass at the light. Bye-bye. I'm doing the whole dash. I'm doing the whole dash. I'm doing that digital dash. I'm making that needle move.
Every day gotta roll the dice. Every day I'm down with the fight. Trying to get rich by the end of the night. Never could wait for the shit we want. Lost in the world of the things we flaunt. Watch him out for the trunks of jaw. Broad daylight on the boulevard. Growing up rough, not giving up. My hood was rough and it fucked us up. Trying to breathe in the Cobra clutch. Day one, all we had was us. Good weed or the angel dust. Been drinking God we trust. Roll the weed on the scepter bus. High as hell, forgot where I park. Escapades way after dark. Trying to catch the wave and got bit by a shark. Take it easy. In the bottom of the gutter where I found my heart. Nigga, everything I spit straight from the heart. Let's get together, get it and get focused. Put the pedal to the floor, we rollin'. All we need is a team of the G's who be down with the plan, ain't scared to squeeze. We aware of the casualties that come with the price of seeking peace. And guess what? We still with it. Ain't going nowhere now, deal with it.
I'm zoning and I'm zoning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning.
Block-aware exclusive. Run that shit back. Block-aware exclusive. Run that shit back.
And I'm zoning.
Hey, that's why you did it again with this.
And I'm zoning. And I'm zoning.
Hey, Bach, what up?
You niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning.
Hey, Crack, what up?
And I'm zoning and I'm zoning.
SunWun, what up?
And I'm zoning and I'm zoning.
Every day gotta roll the dice. Every day I'm down with the fight. Trying to get rich by the end of the night. Never could wait for the shit we want. Lost in the world of the things we flaunt. Watch him out for the trunks of jaw. Broad daylight on the boulevard. Growing up rough, not giving up. My hood was rough and it fucked us up. Trying to breathe in the Cobra clutch. Day one, all we had was us. Good weed or the angel dust. Been drinking God we trust. Roll the weed on the scepter bus. High as hell, forgot where I park. Escapades way after dark. Trying to catch the wave and got bit by a shark. Take it easy. In the bottom of the gutter where I found my heart. Nigga, everything I spit straight from the heart. Let's get together, get it and get focused. Put the pedal to the floor, we rollin'. All we need is a team of the G's who be down with the plan, ain't scared to squeeze. We aware of the casualties that come with the price of seeking peace. And guess what? We still with it. Ain't going nowhere now, deal with it.
I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. I'm zoning and I'm zoning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. I am zoning. Gotta know your beats like Corona. Bad bitches wake up in my morning breakfast and I ain't hungry. I'm thirsty. Stanley Cup. Drinking champagne out the trophy. Drinking hurricane out the bottle. With a promethazine with the codeine. With a Tussanex ass so I can dope fiend. They don't want nothing under 30. So they ain't gonna make it to their 40s. And I'ma fuck around and drop 50. Like a couple of them Golden State Warriors. Number one, SunWun and Pete Crizzy. We the only ones getting busy. And you know rock man cause they say goddamn that nigga go chilly. But I'm freezing cool in the wind like a frisbee. Either or I wear a mask when I killed it. They don't need to see the new Fast and the Fury. So I either gotta take a deal or pick a jury. I got stiff like I kick rigor mortis. I wrestle with the rock, what you figure for it. Ric Flair it, 4 horsemen. I warned you, you get a warning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning. I'm zoning and I'm zoning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. I'm zoning and I'm zoning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning and I'm zoning and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning and and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning.
Yeah, this PD crack, I'm on my Bobby Wall, man. I'm out in Cali with my cousin Marley Mahi, all that. He told me, cuz, fuck the drugs, fuck these hoes, fuck all that. It's time to grind, time to shine, time for Pedro to collect. All eyes on me, Tupac. Big shots to rock, blue dot. Shit got too hot, got a cool out in the new spot. My nigga cool out, oh, move out for the moolah. Dude got 2 Maybachs, cool. I'm finna cop that Musa. Ooh, pull up like what it do. Dumb in a humdrum. Dumb drunk, me and SunWun. Brooklyn, where it come from, where you keep the fire on stronger, you won't live long. One time for the boy 500. Getting like 10 young gunning. Stay proud, safe by great Glock and about 35 raw onions.
I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. Fuck you niggas, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. And fuck you bitches, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning. And fuck you niggas, I'm zoning, and I'm zoning, and I'm zoning.
Automatically go up to you. Yo, bro, you'll never see me anywhere with
I know. Here we go. We live once again. Thank you back for tuning in. Dominant Still Podcast. I'm your host, Rod D. Supreme, a.k.a. SunWun. I'm in here with my guy. We talk about legal stuff. Mr. Guy Lane.
That's all.
G-Money. That's it. We just talk about, the law.
Hey, yo, listen, I wanted to tell you, I'm getting ready to slide off. I'm going to be heading out to Cambodia for a minute to learn about the new wave, the human trafficking.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to be going for like a little minute. You know what I mean? I'm going to go down there. I'm going to kick it at Angkor Wat. I'm going to be in Beijing, China for a minute.
Hold up.
Yeah, the shit's silly. I'm feeling good about it. Law school the shit.
So you're about to go to Cambodia.
Right.
To study human trafficking.
That's like the main human trafficking hub in the world.
They
get it
smuggling
in there.
Motherfuckers.
Shh, come here, young boy. Whatever. The back of the white van. No, they on the back of a little motorbike.
Damn, just got you tied up on the back of a bike.
I don't even know if they tie you up, man.
Shit.
Yeah, yo, I don't even.
Crazy.
The way they running cats in and out of there, it's insane. Like, so, yeah, I'm gonna head on down there next week.
And how long you staying there for?
A few weeks.
A few weeks.
Yeah, chill a little
So
bit.
have you been like on like Duo, the language app or some shit, like brushing up on your Cambodian?
On the real, the language they speak is English. They speak English.
What?
Right.
That's a fact.
It is. I did my research.
Their language in Cambodia is
right.
English.
Yeah, that's the predominant language over there, English.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all right. But they're all right. So there's not a Cambodian. I don't want to sound ignorant.
Right.
But is there a Cambodian language?
I'm sure there is. All I needed to know was that the number one language was English, and I was set. Once they did that, I was like, okay, bet.
That's good shit to know, I guess.
Yeah, well, when you're going over there, it is. So, you know what? Somebody said to me, I think it was in like a group or something, a group chat. Somebody said to me that they spoke that language, whatever that language was, and I can't recall what she said it was. So, yeah, but I'm going to go over there. I'm going to hang out for a little bit and get my little learning on. I'll be learning from 10 to 6 every day, 6 o'clock. The rest of that is mine. The weekends is mine.
10 to 6?
Yeah. So, I'm going to celebrate New Year's twice. I'm going to celebrate, they like a day ahead or something.
Oh, that's ill. Like, all right, yeah, they are. Yeah, because China and Japan I know they celebrated before us as well. My
right.
guy, the kid I used to live with when I was in Brooklyn, Red Rock,
Mm-hmm.
he had a 2-bedroom apartment up in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, and he moved to Japan.
Right. That's a move right there.
And he calls me through the Facebook Messenger app all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me and said, Happy New Year. And it was like almost like 12 hours early, 10 hours earlier than the New Year.
Right.
He's in Japan, so yeah, I'm with that. I get it. Celebrated twice. And then the third time, which is the real time, in March.
Mm-hmm.
These are certain things that when I say in tune with the universe, we need to start incorporating into our daily lives, because the true New Year, the new cycle happens in March.
The new cycle of the new year.
The new cycle is the new year.
Okay, right.
You understand what I'm saying? That happens in March, around the vortex equinox.
Okay.
You know, look that up. And what that is, it's around springtime. It's the rebirth.
March 21st.
Yeah, that's the rebirth
Mm-hmm.
of everything. Think about it.
Mhm.
If we follow what we follow now, which is the Gregorian calendar,
Mm-hmm.
by following that, we are experiencing winter twice,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't make sense. Because winter time is taking place in the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm.
which is January, February, and some parts of March. And it's also taking place at the end of the year through December.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
It's off balance. The beginning, as we know, in every aspect of life, is reflective of the new birth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When does the new birth take place? In the springtime.
Okay.
For one, that's the most obvious evidence of what I'm talking about.
Facts.
You know, the next proof of that is studying how the planets line up. I don't know how you would go about studying that for yourself, to be honest with you. It's the point where the planets line up. And you study it through telescopes and stars. You got to understand which planets is what star, and you have to be studying that position all year
Mhm.
to understand how they line up during that time.
Mhm.
It's how you would study it, but the fact that I'm quite sure that no one's been studying the fucking planets all year and shit, so to even jump on it now, you wouldn't even recognize it lining up and shit.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is that is the genuine New Year. The calendar itself is off. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And the reason that the calendar is off is because they added 2 months to the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they added the month of July and the month of August to the calendar on some crazy shit. Like, even when you look at the prefixes on the months,
Mm-hmm.
they're off. Like the oct prefix, the OCT,
Mhm.
like octagon. You know what I mean? We all know the oct is 8.
8, right.
But October is the 10th month of the year.
Wow. Oh, you're right. So
Doesn't make sense.
you take July
Like,
and August out of there.
Take July and August out, October would be back to the 10th month of the year.
So where'd they come from? Julius Caesar and Augustus?
Facts.
Okay.
Julius Caesar and Augustus. And if you notice, both of those months it was like a big dick contest.
Mhm.
Because both of those months are 31-day months.
Right.
And the reason it is 31-day months, because I'm not sure which it was, but one of the months was added first. And then the nigga who added the second month was on some, fuck that. His joint's 31 days. My joint gonna be
gotta
31 days.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Get your measuring
Because if
sticks
you
out.
look at the months, it's like they're back and forth. It's like
Mhm.
it's 30 days, 31 days, 30 days, 31 days. You get right to July and August, you get all fucked up.
Right,
They
31,
both
31.
31.
Right.
And then now October's off.
Right.
November's off because the Novi prefix is 9. The Deci prefix is 10. They're now 11 and 12. Like, this shit's all off.
Right, right.
Winter's coming twice a year. It's all fucked up. We're not in sync with the universe.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the sciences that we're dealing with. And these are some of the things we got to start teaching to the babies. You know what I mean? It's the Diamond and Steel podcast. It's 10 o'clock. Hey, Toot, we about to break out, man. You know, it's that time. We could throw the soul on, you know, so we always rock out with. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. You know what I mean? The link will be available. Hit my line. I'll hit yours with it. And we building from there, man. Till next time, man. We signing out, man. Peace.
Peace.